Hey guys, it's right here, and in today's Battlefield Hardline video, I'm going to be discussing the upcoming patch that was recently announced by the guys at Visceral in regards to basically weapon balancing is really what the patch is. A lot of weapons are getting nerfed, getting adjusted, some are getting buffed, they're being tweaked, and basically I'm going to go over my thoughts on those tweaks and also give you some things I see in the game that maybe they can address in future patches. Some things that you might have heard of in other videos, some things you might not have heard in other videos that are out there. But it's just things I see in the game that I think definitely need to be addressed for balance and to make the playability of the game kind of keep going on, just really help the overall feel of the game in general. This footage here you're seeing is raw gameplay footage. I didn't want to cut anything up or edit it. I basically wanted to just take one full match and just kind of give you guys a good idea about my play style and how I play. A lot of guys on YouTube want to always put something together, and you never see the deaths, you never see the goofs or the gaffes, but I try to keep it much more real than that and be much more upfront and honest with that. I'm not by any means the best player in the world, not even close to it. But this way you get to see my play style, how I play. This was a team deathmatch game I played on Hollywood Heights, as you can see, and I'm playing mostly as like a stealth role. This footage here will really show the benefit of using a suppressor and the stealth kit that I'm using. I believe I have it unlocked at this point, and basically I was able to really kind of move around silently, open doors silently, do things like that. It really helps. So hopefully you'll enjoy the footage as we talk about this. But first things first, let's go ahead and get started into talking about the the upcoming patch that was announced. So just this last week, Battlefield Hardline's lead multiplayer designer, Thaddeus Sasser, posted some of the balance changes that the team's considering for their next patch, and some of the main ones here. First things first, the K10, the SMG, is getting a reduced bullet damage to 33. I think this is kind of going to be fine. It's not going to nerf the weapon so much to where it's going to make it unusable. It is going to make it, now you need one extra bullet to get a kill on it. However, at the rate this thing spits out bullets, I don't think that's going to be a problem, and I think that it should be fine for what its purpose is. The K10, if you used it, is really a great weapon inside, using it in close quarters. You don't really need to use it. I don't really try to use it at any type of medium or long ranges. I barely even shoot. If I see a guy have a line of sight on an enemy off in the distance, and I know he's kind of out of that range, that sweet spot for the K10, I'm going to try and close the distance before I fire a shot, whereas I might not do that with an assault rifle. So I don't think this is a huge nerf. I think it should be fine for this. I do believe that this gun needs to be nerfed, especially in close quarters a little bit. That one extra bullet that is needed could mean make the difference into balancing this weapon a little bit better for both the player and the enemy. Next thing is the Saiga and PTR designated marksman rifles. They're going to have a reduced recoil on those to kind of bring them more in line with what they have in the COP faction. I've used the PTR. I used the Saiga in the beta and used the PTR in the full retail version of the game. It's not too bad, depending on if you have an angled foregrip on there and a muzzle brake or something like that, or a compensator. You can kind of control the recoil if you put forth your shot. So really, this is just going to benefit those weapons if you've been using them. The HCAR and HK51 are going to have a reduced recoil to bring them more in line with the SCAR H and SA58 battle rifles. This is a much needed fix. I actually purchased the HCAR and HK51 as my first battle rifles that I purchased in this game, and it was let me just say, it was a huge grind trying to get the weapon unlocks for those weapons, just because of how poor they are to control and how inaccurate they were with the recoil. It just made them almost unusable at times. And when they start out with I think like an ACOG scope and a 3.5 scope, or longer range scopes rather than a normal one-time scope or a red dot sight, it can make it just completely unusable. And I immediately then, after kind of working on those unlocks, went and bought the SCAR H and the SA58, and man, what a difference. So if you haven't bought one of those weapons at this point, I would suggest buying the SCAR H and SA58 first until the HCAR and the HK51 are patched. The 410 Jury handgun for the mechanic class is getting an increased damage per pellet to become more effective. Good. I actually have it unlocked, but I have not used it yet or even tried it, but that should help that weapon. The FMG9 and M45 SMGs are increasing, getting an increased damage per round to 25 damage per round, and the fallout is being pushed out to make these weapons more effective. It's kind of sad when you have weapons that are a part of some sort of unlock assignment thing. You'd think those weapons would be usable, but right now, really outside of the knockout, any of the syndicate weapons are kind of highly unusable compared to some of the counterparts already in the classes. These two weapons were kind of fall into that. So it's nice to see that they're going to increase these. I hope they also somewhere along the line do something with the other weapons too to kind of bring them in line a little bit. But like, you know, a double-barrel shotgun, I mean, how's that going to stand up to the 870 or the SPAS 12 when, you know, you get two shots and you better hit them or else you're going to get caught in a reload animation. So I don't know how they're going to fix something like that. The next thing here on the list, the battle rifle minimum damage is increased to 25 across the board. So now it's going to mean that you're going to get a 4-shot kill across the board now with those weapons rather than having that 5-shot kill, which is important for these battle rifles. There's, you know, if you're going to have to deal with a higher amount of recoil, a slower fire rate, you expect the weapon to do more damage and have more kind of punch behind the shots when you're hitting guys, especially at, you know, longer ranges. That's kind of what these battle rifles were supposed to be meant for. Now seeing that kind of happen and then kind of bring those in line a little bit better with some of the other weapons in the game, and kind of, I feel like they have them kind of fitting a good role now. They're a good little role for them to fit with the battle rifles here now that they're bringing that up. And then the AKM minimum damage is being reduced to 24. Going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I have not purchased or played with the AKM much in the full retail version. I did in the beta, and it was a beast. It did definitely have a lot of pop. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and when they actually, you know, how that really affects the weapon once it's patched. Now, there's no timetable for release yet on this patch. They didn't announce anything. However, usually how these things go is they announce a patch, and within about a month's time or so, you'll see the patch hit the retail version of the game here. So I expect to see a patch here shortly within the next couple weeks. Okay, so let's go ahead now and talk about some of the things I think they need to address. Some of these things you might have heard in other videos, some you might not have, but I'm going to go ahead and address them because I think these are kind of game changers in a way, things I would just really maybe personally like to see fixed in the game. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about here the hot wire issues with the RPGs. It's been widely talked about that the amount of RPGs in the hot wire game mode is killing hot wire and making it just unplayable for a lot of people. You know, you drive around, you know, you finally go get to that vehicle, you drive from your spawn, you grab that hot wire vehicle, you start driving away, you turn the first corner, and boom, an RPG hits you. And then, okay, you die, you spawn back in, you get back there, get to another one, and the same thing, boom, you get hit by another RPG. It's maddening, and it can be. But removing the RPGs from this game mode is not the answer, and let me tell you why. If you remove the RPGs from this game mode, you simply now break the game the other way. You make it to where the vehicles and the spawn points, that they don't have to fear that explosive element anymore. So if you're on a team and that team gets 4 to 5 vehicles going, how are you going to take them out to try and maybe get yourself back into the game? It's just going to make it a less competitive experience, and an experience where if a team gets 4 vehicles, they get up. I mean, how are you going to take out 4 vehicles? I mean, you'd be lucky if one drives over a breaching charge for you to blow it up, but you know, I think the game mode needs that explosive element. So how do we fix it? Well, I think the first thing you do is reduce the trunk reload. It should be one RPG available for one player per vehicle. They should be able to respawn or get more rockets out of that vehicle a minute and a half later, whenever the respawn timer is. That shouldn't happen. You should only be able to get it one player for the rocket. At one time they get the 2 rockets, and that's it. That that vehicle explodes, it respawns, and then someone else can go get it now. But I think that would go a long way to reduce the amount of RPGs on the battlefield. Also, delay the respawn timer of the sedans and coupes at the spawn. That way you don't have players constantly, you know, just, oh, let me just go to the spawn and grab more RPGs. Me and a buddy of mine just did that all round earlier tonight. That's all we did, and we were able to just constantly shoot RPGs to enemy teams, and I just think it needs to be reduced rather than removed. Okay, so the next thing, obviously the team deathmatch spawns. They definitely need to be fixed. It's frequently spawning when you're and being surrounded by enemies is never a nice thing. It happens on just about every team deathmatch map. So I think that's something they need to address, and address sooner. It's going to kill that game mode, and people just basically stop playing it. Third thing I think needs to be fixed here is Conquest on Bank Job. I just think the ticket count is way too low. If you guys have ever played it, you'll notice that match on that map, which is actually pretty fun, just seems to go by so fast. You look up and the game's almost over. So I think maybe raising the ticket count there would help that game mode a lot. At least on the console, it's so short that the match seems to be over just a few minutes after it started, and you never really feel like you get into a rhythm or a groove on that map. So I think raising the ticket count on that map, that game will go a long way to fixing it. I also think the Bearcat, that big tank-like attack truck, needs to be fixed. It needs to be able to take more damage. I think it gets taken out with grenades and grenade launchers much too easy. The problem is I wouldn't have a problem with that if it was more maneuverable, but it's not. So because it's not maneuverable, it needs to be fixed to make it more viable on the battlefield. That's all I have for now, guys. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And until next time, this is Rai. Take care.